Did someone say fantasy? Get ready for another episode of Fantasy Football RPG with Mike and Evan. Let's get into the action.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's redraft season. We are in the midst of it. We are fired up. Camp reports are coming out. Players are getting cut. Final rosters are coming down. And we are joined by a very special guest, Justin Herzig from Establish the Run. Justin, how are you?
Mike, Evan, I'm doing great. Appreciate the invite. And crazy day today. Finally got some roster cuts. And boy, did we get some cuts.
There were some shockers there. Pour some out for Tim Patrick, Fireball Jones in all of his glory. But before we get into that, Justin, tell people who you are, what you're working on, and, something that gets them fired up.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Justin Herzig. I work for Establish the Run. I focus primarily on best ball or all, a little in-season stuff too, but primarily best ball. And previously there's articles, there's content, there's rankings, there's all that, but we only have a week left. So right now it's just draft. We're just having fun.
Yeah. It's the best time of the year. Well, other than maybe Christmas, but Evan, you ran into some difficulties today. Do you want to tell the people what you were up to?
I was demolishing Ohio State as USC.
Congratulations. Did you win?
Well, it's currently paused with 2 minutes left, and I'm up 42-21. So
we got to get back to that. But before we do.
And now it's time for news and notes.
All right. We're just going to fly through this list because there's a load of players that were cut. Listen. I'm going to just read all of them. If there's a player that you think still has dynasty value, please stop me. Or he signed somewhere else and you're excited. So Desmond Ridder, dead. Michael Carter, RIP. Falcons didn't have anybody. The Ravens signed Russell Gage and then cut him a week later. Bold move. Frank Gore Jr., that's tough. Ray Davis is now the clear backup. KJ Hamler, the Buffalo Bills king. Terrace Marshall Jr. was a surprise cut. If he signs in Cincinnati and reunites with his college quarterback, any excitement there or no? All right. We'll keep flying. Nobody on the Bengals that we care about. The Browns surprise cut Dante Foreman. So it's going to be Jerome Ford with Pierre Strong behind him.
I think they might re-sign Deonta Foreman. It sounds like this is a little trickery because they have 4 quarterbacks. They think they're going to be able to trade one of them. And once they trade one, they could then probably use that extra roster spot to re-sign Deonta Foreman because I don't think he hits waivers. I think he just goes straight free agency. Yep. But either way, yeah, this is just great news for Jerome Ford.
Lovely. Cowboys, they're loaded with running back talent. So they just went ahead and cut everyone else from their roster. Snoop Conner, Malik Davis, Royce Freeman. So now it is really just the Rico Dowdle show and 90-year-old Ezekiel Elliott. Tim Patrick from the Broncos, which that is disgusting. How are they going to field a team? Who is the wide receiver 2 there now?
Yeah, I think that's most interesting because in preseason, Tim Patrick was running in 2 wide receiver sets. He was running with the ones. So we kind of expected it was Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and then Josh Reynolds playing the slot. I think more likely now, Josh Reynolds, maybe his role expands a little, but now it's like Veely or you got Marvin Mims. I don't think Troy Franklin's ready. Hey, Sean Payton, new coach, new staff. Tim Patrick was from the older. I think Tim Patrick, there's rumors he might land with the Lions. I could see with their practice. I think with their practice squad. So I think he's still. We know he has the talent. Age 30, coming off the injury, and wasn't fully healthy during camps. A little worrisome though.
100%. If he lands somewhere that's a high-powered offense, maybe he's worth a super deep dynasty grab. But big news from the Broncos. They cut Samaje Perine, wheels up for Jaleel McLaughlin. The Lions went ahead and cut some people that nobody cares about. Hendon Hooker is now the clear backup. The Packers traded for Malik Willis and then cut both of their backup quarterbacks. Any interest in Malik Willis as a quarterback handcuff?
No, he still sucks at throwing the football. Watching him here in Tennessee multiple years now, it's just you don't want him throwing more than 10 times a game.
But so fast.
If it's a super flex league, Jordan Love getting hurt, he does become a very solid option just because of what he can do on the ground. And they have so many other weapons that maybe they'd be able to protect him a little. But yeah, he's not a good quarterback. But hey, we've seen bad quarterbacks actually do well in fantasy.
Speaking of bad quarterbacks that do well in fantasy. God, I love the Justin Fields
Knew
drop.
it was coming, Mike.
And I thought that was going to be Jameis Winston.
Oh man,
need a crab leg, you know.
Yeah, just eating W's. Houston Texans, they cut Noah Brown. Any love for a Cowboys reunion there?
Hopefully. I mean, I drafted a little of him in best ball just because thoughts were, hey, attach a CJ Stroud, and he actually had multi-100-yard games last year. But if he lost out into John Mechie, it's probably not great.
Yeah. Colts cut Evan Hull, which means Trey Sermon is a clear backup, which there was a camp report about that in May. We all kind of laughed at it, and now it's real life. Jags went ahead, cut some people that we don't really care about. Chiefs, my boy, Kadarius Toney. Just a heartbreaker there. They also cut Justin Ross and Irv Smith, some dynasty darlings from 3 years ago. Luis Reese-Zamet, the rugby player, didn't make the roster, and then Deneric Prince also did not. So now it's Carson Steele versus Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the most gross RB2 fight that we've ever seen. Moving on down, Evan, you were very thorough with this. Chargers cut a tight end we don't care about and a running back we don't care about. Kamani Vidal season is still alive.
Are we throwing Donald Parham in the tight end we don't care about category?
Listen,
we care about him when he gets injured. Because he looks like he's just dead on the field. Unfortunately.
After a great XFL, or was it USFL? I think he was doing well in the USFL. Yeah.
But no, I do like Parham. He was the kind of guy that's going to get you 3 catches for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns. You love that. The Rams cut Zach Evans, another dynasty darling. They cut Boston Scott, so hopefully he goes back to Philly to score 4 touchdowns on the Giants. Dolphins are clearly riding with Skylar Thompson as their backup. I am going very fast through this. The Patriots cut Bailey Zappi, leaving only Joe Milton and Jacoby Brissett behind Drake May, assuming Drake May starts. Bailey Zappi can play. I have more love with him than with most of the quarterbacks on this list, so I hope he goes somewhere and earns a QB2 spot. James Robinson.
I really enjoyed the tweet that said that Joe Milton is the best at the best ever at a sport that hasn't been invented yet. And
I believe it.
I think that's true.
Yeah. If you just need a very big person to throw the ball really hard with no accuracy, he's your guy. The Giants cut Allen Robinson, who still exists. The Jets cut Zach Kuntz, so they're only going to carry 2 tight ends. It's Tyler Conklin and who's the other one, Evan?
I was just pulling that up. Nobody of consequence, apparently, since I'm completely blanking.
Conklin, wheels up.
Ruckert. Jeremy Ruckert.
Oh, Jeremy Ruckert. Great point.
And last year it was I think CJ Uzomah was there, and he was taking some of them, but then he went and he got cut a couple of days ago from a different team. Yep. Yeah, so Conklin's Rodgers' guy.
Yep. The Eagles, listen, they cut all sorts of people. The important thing here, Johnny Wilson made the team. Aeneas Smith made the team. Johnny Wilson dream is still alive. And Steelers cut Quez Watkins. Thank goodness I don't have to see him on my screen anymore. Let Calvin Austin return the punts. They cut John Rhys-Plumlee. This is purely Steelers Mike talking. I thought that he deserved to be the QB3 on that team because he shows more on special teams and as a creative.
The kick returner. He should be the kick returner. Come on.
He's Taysom Hill, just with a less cool name.
Or a more cool name.
Fair. Logan Thomas is dead. Cameron Latu, didn't they just draft him last year?
Out of Alabama last year.
Wild. They also cut Cody Schrader.
He's been hurt a lot, so.
Yep. They cut Cody Schrader, UDFA. Really was hoping that he would get a shot. Seahawks cut nobody of notice unless you guys want to talk about PJ Walker. Nope. All right. And then Kyle Phillips surprisingly did not make the Tennessee Titans, even though he was elite for 1 game 3 years ago. So that's tough. And then the Washington Commanders cut Sam Hartman. Without further ado, let's win people some redraft leagues.
Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
All right, ladies and gentlefolk, this is going to be a 1QB PPR mock draft. I'm going to go ahead and full screen that. Evan, how does that look? Is everybody nice and clear?
Yeah, good enough.
All right, we will take it. So 1QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex. The most vanilla league that you can come up with, but this is what most leagues play with. So we are going to go ahead, send a little message in the chat, as all should, at all, drafting now. Look at that. Commissioner duties. And we're doing it. Boop. So at the 101, Sloth has got and signed up for it. Is there any argument here for it to be anybody other than Christian McCaffrey, Justin, or is it McCaffrey with a bullet?
No, very much CMC. The cap seems perfectly fine, and the gap between him and everyone else, including especially RB2, is just so large.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely. Well, Sloth didn't make it on time. He might turn into a CPU before long.
Come on.
Do you have a preference, Evan, between Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb? Or, well, Hill's gone because he autoed, which is hilarious.
Gotta love that. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Personally, I still like Tyreek Hill better. I think he's more dynamic. I think you're going to roll coverages more often over to CD's side of the field. I think you should be able to see that. You're going to see improved defenses in that division, hopefully with Dan Quinn going to the Commanders, and then the Eagles going out and drafting some secondary help. So you should see an upgrade in the secondaries, which will be much obliged and much needed.
Yeah. So, Justin, I saw that you went ahead and took Justin Jefferson. Tell me, do you just believe in the individual player that Justin Jefferson is? Like, he is truly quarterback proof?
Yeah, for me, it comes down to in that spot of the Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And especially for doing like a home league, I'm pretty sure I can make it to the playoffs. My friends, they're not the smartest. Like, I can survive it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's got an amazing regular season schedule, so many indoor games. But come playoff time, it's a tough schedule. And then you've got that San Francisco week 17. Justin Jefferson, I think just the best wide receiver in the league. I think Sam Darnold is a good enough quarterback. We saw, backups to Kirk Cousins last year thrive in that offense. I don't think they throw it as much as, I think their passing rate of expectation will go down a little compared to last year, but overall, it's still going to be a slinging team, and the offense is going to run through Justin Jefferson. And hey, maybe Jordan Addison gets suspended for the playoffs, and now Justin Jefferson just ends up with 14 targets a game.
Very fair, very fair. All right, I love drafting at the turn because right here, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to take a receiver that's going to jump into the wide receiver 1 here. So Garrett Wilson, big year coming for him. And listen, there's a whole slew of running backs here, but I feel good about the wide receiver tier going from like wide receiver 12 almost all the way to like wide receiver 27. So I'm going to secure a good running back that I feel good about. That's not returning kicks like Kyron Williams is.
Hey, with him returning kicks, how early does he get injured? When is his first game that he misses this year?
Oh, man. Like week 4?
Right? Yeah. 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there.
I mean, it's tough. He's
right
195-pound running back, and they're putting him into more danger by having him run full speed. That's just not ideal. Evan, who are you looking at with your next pick?
With the next pick, I'm looking at Drake London or Derrick Henry. I'm looking at either continuing to pound the wide receiver position or going with a running back that I legitimately think could get 18 plus touchdowns this season.
Nice.
And look at that. They're both still on there. I personally like building through wide receiver more. I always just feel like I can get running backs that get injured, play that waiver wire game. So I'm going to take London here.
All right.
I think it's finally that wide receiver 1 season for him. We're going to look up, not overall, but top 12 wide receiver 1 type of season.
We've been waiting. We needed a regular quarterback. Every time I see Desmond Ridder play football, I get more excited about Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
And he just got cut, which obviously tells you that Desmond Ridder wasn't a real NFL quarterback.
Yeah. Justin, does that give you any more hope for the Steelers offense? I know you're on the clock, so please focus on your pick, but
I'm going to go with my favorite player this year. And
I love it.
My most drafted player in best ball, but Devon Achane. And he's either going to win. He's going to win me multiple weeks just by himself. And I think for PPR, we're seeing him actually being used out wide. He's going to become the number 3 passing option in that offense. Just up for Devon Achane.
Yeah.
In the first quarterback off the board.
Yeah, and that wasn't an auto draft. Oh, quarterbacks are flying, which I did
Those
not
were all
expect.
aspects. Yeah.
Those are real people making those picks. So thank you, Drew and Brandon. But who are you looking at here, Justin?
Okay. There is a major drop off at the running back if I did want to go Pacheco, so I'm seriously considering that. because I think I can find some strong enough wide receivers later. Pacheco in the third. I just don't like it, but we're gonna do it.
Ooh.
Although it's because you got to adjust a little because it's a little different than, this is a managed league. Managed league, getting those running backs are a little more important than kind of best ball, where you kind of can find the just find the spike weeks. Like Chris Olave was the other one I was considering there. I think Chris Olave has an outside shot at leading the league in targets and receptions this year. Like if you look at what's going on in that offense, the practices have just been nonstop. Cardo Olave. Yeah.
Which is exactly where I was going with my pick. Once again, I'm sticking with my theory here of dome teams. All right, we're going to keep them playing inside. We're going to keep them running in offenses that are going to play in good weather conditions because they're inside in the AC, not dealing with the elements, not getting all hot and sweaty outside. Like if you're playing in Miami, you hate being that away team in Miami. You're just cooking in the sun the entire game.
What are you going to name your team? Like something global warming, like El Nino B2? It's got to be something because, hey, this is end of the world and you are indoors.
Yeah, that is a really, really good thing that I need to work into the team name here. Definitely need to think through some good names. Maybe hurricane shelters.
Ooh, that's a good one.
When the season gets a little rough and you feel like you're in the middle of a hurricane in the middle of the season because everybody just got injured on your team, I'm that shelter. Just come take refuge inside the stadium here.
Yeah. Well, I was right in thinking this tier was pretty big because Deebo Samuel, still an elite wide receiver there. And was kind of hoping that Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts was going to fall to me here because I normally don't take a quarterback early, but I think those are the top two quarterbacks. Maybe you can fit Mahomes in there. And they both sniped me, which was quite rude of them. So now I'm looking, maybe I take the spike weeks in Jalen Waddle, and I'm going to go ahead with that. He's an elite player. Tyreek Hill isn't getting any younger. Worst case scenario, he gives me a couple spike weeks that win me a week. Best case scenario, he entrenches himself as a top 15 fantasy wide receiver this year. Justin, I wanted to get your perspective a little bit while we're waiting for our next picks. Do you think that best ball as an industry and as people are drafting that more, the strategies that go into that have kind of bled into redraft leagues, or do you think they've stayed fairly separate?
I think it stayed mostly separate, to be honest, because the people who end up doing best ball probably leave most of their home leagues. They maybe, for me personally, I went from the guy that had a dozen, 15 redraft leagues, and now I'm down to just one home league. That is the one that I've had with friends forever. And so I just don't think there's that much crossover right now. And the other is so much of Sleeper, Yahoo, ESPN, any of the sites that are doing redraft, people's draft strategy is just so based off what the rankings are on that site. While when you go over to Underdog, DraftKings, Drafters, all of the kind of best ball mindset has so shifted those rankings from a dragging wide receivers up. Yeah. So if you do a bunch of best ball and you're joining a redraft league, I do think you got to kind of change your mindset to be okay, hold up now. What am I supposed to do different? Right. Yeah. I need to go for running backs earlier.
It was super interesting to see some of those different ADPs. Malik Neighbors on Underdog was getting shot up into almost the second round, somewhere around the third round. Now in ESPN, he's still a fifth or a sixth round pick. So if you're on ESPN, you can get Malik Neighbors super late. If you're on Underdog or DraftKings, you have to plant your flag early. You just picked Devontae Smith, which is just Jalen Waddle in a different offense.
Jalen Waddle with Kellen Moore. So he's going to play a little more in the slot, kind of take that role that we saw CeeDee land, that we saw Keenan Allen thrive in. And especially with Jahan Dotson going over to Philly, it does sound like Dotson will play will play outside when they have three wide receiver sets, which allows Devontae Smith a little more freedom underneath and in that slot role, which I think is pretty valuable.
Yep. We actually just got a message in the sleeper chat, which we haven't had this happen before, but how do you feel about 107 in a dynasty league, Evan, for Devon Achane?
I was literally just responding to it. Yeah. I like it. He's a weak winner. We're talking about a guy that's going to drop Oh yeah, I can't type. Sorry. Yep. I don't.
He's
don't
the opposite
English.
of a weak winner. He's a very strong weak winner.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, definitely love that play. Moving that pick. You're talking a Odunze, who's not really going to help you this year as much as Achan would. Maybe you're talking a JJ before the injury happened. Trying to think around that range, maybe a Brock Bowers. So yeah, definitely would be willing to move off of all those guys to be able to get HN who can drop a 50 burger on any given week.
Yeah. Ooh, taking one of the last tight ends in the tier. Justin, do you think that Kincaid has tight end 1 in his range of outcomes?
Yeah, but it's probably in like the 2 to 4% likelihood of it happening. I think it's just really difficult. All right. The way that Laporta, the way that Kelsey kind of are structured on their teams just allows for a median outcome to be substantially higher than even what Kincaid can hit on that higher end. From a talent-wise, Kincaid is just kind of a tier below. Even from a prospect profile, you really need just all of those other wide receivers to just kind of play second fiddle. And it's possible, but I don't think that's how they want that offense to run. And I think more likely if the offense is not thriving through the wide receivers, they'll be more run heavy, which would then hurt Dalton Kincaid as they get more Dawson Knox aspects. Like for him to be number 1, I think Dawson Knox has to get hurt because Dawson Knox right now is still playing 30 to 40% of the snaps. I think you would probably need him to be the clear number 1 in that team in touchdowns, which means Keon Coleman completely fails and neither Samuel nor Shakir. I think you are really holding on for maybe this last tight end. Is that what you were hoping for?
All right. If you have listened to the show at all, you know that I am the resident George Pickens stan. There's no one else there. The quarterback play's improved. Arthur Smith, we all hate him because it's funny, but he's a better OC than Matt Canada was. So I'm taking George Pickens with a bullet. Then Kyle Pitts. For some reason, we were like, oh, Drake London got an improved quarterback. We're going to fire him up. I mean, he was like picked 12 or 13 on underdog for a little bit. Kyle Pitts never adjusted. So I think Kyle Pitts has the same likelihood of being a top 5 tight end as a Dalton Kincaid, as a Trey McBride, as even a Sam Laporta if we see some touchdown regression or a Jameson Williams breakout. So I'm very happy about Kyle Pitts.
My all inside team. I was waiting for Pitts to fall back. Come on, Mike.
You can pick Darnell
ruining the stream here. What are we doing?
I do like Kyle Pitts, but I mean, I got to say, didn't he finish, I think, like tight end 18 last year? We have moved him up to like tight end 7. There has been a very strong bump for a player who wasn't even like a starting tight end last year.
Fair. He also couldn't turn left, which is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it took Zoolander at least a 2-hour movie to get there.
Yeah, so hopefully he gets the Zoolander full off-season workload, and now we can see him, take the target share, take the underlying metrics, take the things that we're excited about, and turn into a viable fantasy tight end. If not, if it doesn't happen this season, I'm done forever. Kyle Pitts is dead to me. All right, Evan, how are you feeling about your team and who you're looking at here? I know you took Anthony Richardson last, which was very rude of you because I'm the Richardson guy.
Hey, I just had to get that Michael Pittman stack and had to get that interior player, which, we're looking at this board and there really aren't any interior players. I love me some wide receivers, but how many more wide receivers can I really draft? I got one more flex spot, so can probably shove one more in here. And we're going to go with Terry McLaurin because of Dotson getting traded. We're looking at an offense with Cliff Kingsbury that absolutely loves to spread the ball out, throw the ball around. So we're looking at a guy that finally could be that low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2, that every year everybody thinks he's going to be. And then he ends up being that low-end wide receiver 2, which always ends up disappointing. Therefore, he always ends up falling further and further in dynasty rankings.
Any concern that in the preseason, Cliff Kingsbury already had him line up on the left and only run 3 different routes?
I mean, it's Cliff and a rookie quarterback. So that is going to be my excuse for it. Okay. He's trying to keep it nice and simple for Daniels to learn the offense and just kind of baby gloves him into the season.
It's a nice touch. Justin, you went with Tank Dell there. Do you think that there's a chance he becomes wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1? Are you just fired up about any receiver attached to CJ Stroud? Walk me through that.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. Most likely you're going to have Diggs and Nico in 2 wide receiver sets, and then Tank will play in 3. That's it. They're going to have a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, a lot more than they did last year. We also expect their passing rate expectation to increase this year as Stroud enters his sophomore year, and you hope for that kind of next level, kind of just, hey, stepping it up. And then from a Tank Dell, like, he's still explosive, still can make it done. Like, his size is, he plays a lot larger than his size, plays a lot further downfield. Yep. If you do get an injury to either of the 2, he now becomes an absolute smash, but I still think he's going to provide substantial value just being a wide receiver for CJ Stroud.
Completely fair. I have another hypothetical for our bettors in the room. Is there any chance that CJ Stroud breaks like the 5,000 yard mark this year? I mean, his over under set at, I think, 44.50 last I checked. So you slamming that over?
I'd say possible, but they still ran a ton last year. Like, they were, I think, bottom 10 in the league in passing rate over expectation. Obviously, with CJ Stroud, like, as a rookie, you do that. You run a lot more. Okay, I'm going to grab some James.
You got to lock and load here. Oh, love the James Conner pick. Let's finish the CJ Stroud discussion, and then let's talk about James Conner.
So, like, we are, when we're doing projections, we're expecting to throw at a higher clip, but that's still, you look at Patrick Mahomes, they have had the highest passing rate over expectation basically since his, I think, first year as a starter, sophomore year. That's a team that we know is just wants to throw. That's in their DNA. Mm-hmm. Houston still, they brought in Joe Mixon. Like, they still are that, probably have that run first mentality somewhere in there. So I think there's just going to be a bit more balance than him getting the full slinging it. I don't know too much about what their defense is too, but I think it should be a little better. And if that's the case, they may not have too many shootouts, which is really what you need. Why Tua was able to lead the league in passing yards last year, because their defense, they were just shootout after shootout.
Completely fair.
It is a shtick at this point, Mike.
Yep.
We are going with an inside player here.
All right. Walk me through the Jake Ferguson pick. I think every team has a tight end other than 1 or 2. Is Jake Ferguson like that much higher than the next guy that went off the board, David Njoku, do you, or it's just the shtick?
I mean, the shtick made the decision. They're both the same tier to me. Watson's shoulder is definitely concerning. Watching him try and throw the ball, he doesn't seem like the same quarterback. I would be hopeful that he can get back on track. For any Browns fans out there, they definitely need it. It would be great to be able to have some hope continue for that franchise. But I think Ferguson really could be the second in command in the receptions in Dallas. Yeah. I think it is a very plausible case that you can make for that. And if that's the case, all right, let me have him.
Completely fair. I would like to offer the best drafting advice that I can ever give anybody. That's to not auto draft, because then you get Austin Eckler in the 7th round in the year of our Lord 2024. I'm going to pick a guy that just perpetually scores fantasy points and we hate him for some reason, Dak Prescott. They're going to continue to pass at a huge rate. Yeah, he's going to stink in November, but I'll just go ahead and trade him or find somebody off of waivers before then. And then with my next pick, let me scroll on down here. Let me get Target Hog in a team that's terrible in a PPR league. That sounds like a recipe for success. Give me Deontay Johnson.
Is Deontay Johnson the wide receiver 1 on that team come the last 2 games of the season?
Emphatically, yes.
Okay.
Unless you feel differently about Xavier Legette. I know that we've talked about him extensively on the pod, so it's nice to have Justin here. Justin, I don't know how much you dig into the rookies, but how do you feel about Legette's fit versus what Deontay Johnson does?
I have a time-sensitive question. How do I get back into the draft? I kind of went back to the home page.
You got to go to mock drafts, or you can just tell me who you want, and I can use commissioner tools to assign.
I don't even know where mock drafts is.
Oh, Lord.
I'm trying to buy time here on the clock.
If you go to the show notes, I attached the link in there.
I was going to say, I think you DM me, so if I click on that, maybe it comes right back up.
Hopefully. Otherwise,
already joined. I'm in. There we go. Okay.
Awesome. I bought you enough time. Look at that. Using my whole clock.
Sleeper's slick, but that wasn't the most UI. Okay.
It happens from time to time. I'm going to take a running back with some bad knees here. I think the Raiders' offensive line is better than people actually realize. I think quarterback play is a major question. And what do they want to do? They want to try and run the ball. They want to try and control it. They want to try and play through defense. So he also plays inside, which is another bonus.
That's fair. If you want the guy that's going to be in on first and second down on a bad offense, Zamir White's your guy.
He's going to average he's going to average 15 rushes a game, Mike.
Yeah, 15 rushes from 45 yards and maybe a touchdown. Congratulations.
I mean,
Justin, did the 3 preseason receptions just really bring you around on Brian Thomas, or did you already love him?
Already big Brian Thomas fan. I mean, if you look at going into the draft, he was pretty clearly the number 4 wide receiver from a prospect talent standpoint. Then you bring in, hey, he also got wide receiver number 4 overall draft capital. Okay, that makes sense. So now we've got a highly touted, highly draft capital player who comes into a young, blooming, quarterback that we're expecting positive regression for Trevor Lawrence. And then when you look at their actual usage, he's immediately playing in 2 wide receiver sets and went on the outside. And there's an upside chance that this offense runs through Brian Thomas. So I'm a big fan. He's obviously going to have the big plays, but I think he can also kind of give you a full route tree.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. A lot of people knocked him pre-draft because of his route tree, but why would you have Brian Thomas run a full route tree when he's big, fast, crazy good at the catch point, and you have Malik Neighbors who can do all of the short and intermediate stuff? I thought it made a lot of sense for the LSU offense to run it the way that they did, and it was very promising this preseason to see how the Jaguars are trying to move Brian Thomas around and use him in a more creative way. I think we're about to have Sloth on auto again. Cam Sutton.
Oh, come on, dude.
Listen, I actually don't hate the Cam Sutton or the Gus Edwards pick. Where they went, pretty rough. But, Jalen Wright at the 9-2. Can anybody explain that to me?
Maybe he thinks it's a best ball league.
Did Raheem Mostert already go? I think Raheem Mostert's still available.
Yep. So if you want the 3, I see the path for Wright. I think that he is likely to edge out Mostert by the end of the year, but it's tough for a redraft managed league like this to know when to start him, when he's going to be useful, things like that. Clock's ticking. Justin's stressing.
We're good.
Come on.
We're going to grab Jalen Warren.
All right. Any concern with the hamstring injury or with Arthur Smith, known agent against fantasy football?
To the first, it sounds like he's going to play in week 1. So the hamstring injury usually has a 2 to 3 week period of recovery, and that is what he took. So it sounds like he should be fine. Whether they come off a little slow week 1, whatever. He's probably not in my starting lineup anyways. He's definitely going to play a good role when I need him for flexes or injuries, or if Najee goes down, he's a fantastic, RB1. Now, for the Arthur Smith, obviously Arthur Smith, we don't love, he grinds our gears from a fantasy perspective, but from a all of his running game, his running backs have been very efficient back in the Tennessee days in Atlanta. And so, while we don't like it for tight ends or for maybe George Pickens, but from a running back standpoint, other than if Cordero Patterson starts seeing a little too much work, I'm expecting them to them combined for 500 touches.
That makes a ton of sense. I did some Steelers projections, and I think I had them out to 400 and something combined between carries and targets. Gummit, Caleb McKee. He took Brian Robinson. Listen, I love Brian Robinson this year, especially as a depth running back piece. Say what you will about him. He's very useful. So now I'm looking at these running backs.
I got pretty gross. They're pretty gross.
I'm going to take the one with the starter treatment in Cincinnati and go ahead and take Zach Moss. And listen, if our benches were deeper, I would actually go ahead and double tap maybe a backup quarterback here that I could stash in case Dak goes down or something like that. But with benches this shallow, it's really not worth it. So I'm just going to keep taking backup running backs. And we talked about it a little bit earlier. Don't love that Kyron Williams is on kick returns. I liked Blake Corum as a prospect. Evan, we argued about him over a year and a half ago. He's good at football. He's not flashy. He's not sexy. He doesn't get the people up in the morning, but he hits the holes. He runs with power, and he has a jump cut that, your uncle will be excited about. So, hi, Uncle Steve, if you're listening.
Yeah, I've been listening to a bunch of Michigan, just people that are very involved, people that write on Michigan football. It's been very evident that the coaching staff saw Edwards as the home run threat that would not do exactly what they wanted him to do, which was run the ball in between the tackles, be able to pick up 4 yards, 5 yards maybe, every once in a while break a big run, and every once in a while hit that home run instead of every single time trying to hit that home run, which is exactly what they needed, which is why they just absolutely fed Corum last year. He can handle the workload as soon as Kyron goes down. We were talking about how early he goes down earlier, so that is definitely quite interesting. And this feels absolutely disgusting looking at these running backs that are left.
Yeah, Evan, walk me through after you make your pick.
Yeah.
How does it feel? You did the 0 RB thing. You tried it. How's it feel?
It feels pretty gross. I'm just going to take somebody in here and Chuba Hubbard to be able to get me through the first couple weeks, hoping for a running back injury. Never actually hope for running back injuries, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So I'm just going to try and play that waiver wire game. Running back looks absolutely gross. But when you look at wide receiver on my team, I absolutely love wide receiver. I feel like I have it, and I can just take dart throws the rest of this draft. I have 3 more running backs that are going to be coming onto my team, and I'm just hoping to potentially be able to hit a backup or maybe somebody that has a potential at a starter role, which doesn't really seem like many players at this point. So. But I was very upset with the Tajay Spears pick right before me in the ninth round. That one really hurt. Made me kind of push to Devin Singletary, which I don't feel good about at all. Was highly considering Brian Robinson because I think he gets a lot of goal line work. So I was very much there with you, Mike. Tajay, look, if this offense isn't clicking with Will Levis, they're just going to try and run the ball with their 2 running backs. There's talk of both of them being on the field at the same time a lot this season. So you run to the left side of that offensive line. Do not run to the right side. If you run to the right side, it's going to be negative -4-yard rush. If you run to the left side, it should be a 4-yard rush.
Dude, that Joe Walt, Peter Skoronski combo is nasty. I feel so bad for any, you run at a 4, but it's Peter Skoronski, right?
Joe Walt's not on that team.
JC Latham. Sorry, I wanted them to take Joe Alt. But JC Latham and Peter Skoronski, just maulers in the run game. Absolute.
And then you throw Cushenberry there at center. Like they actually have a center this year. So now you have 3 offensive linemen in Tennessee. Left side, good. Right side, very bad.
Yep.
Titans offensive line summed up.
Yeah. Brandoso went ahead and took Tua Tagovailoa, who is the antithesis of Lamar Jackson. Any point in having a backup quarterback when you only have 3 or 4 bench spots, or just stream them, hope for the best?
Well, I mean, I haven't taken a quarterback yet because I was kind of expecting that, hey, such small benches, I'd be able to. And honestly, QBs 11, 12, 13 are all really solid. But then Jordan Love got auto-drafted, and now Tua did. So I'm going to take some Brock Purdy just because that auto, I don't want that auto to take a 3rd QB. And then really, because QB 15, 16, not great. QB 11, 12, 13, I think pretty solid. Plus, it's a redraft league. You can play the waivers game. Maybe Deshaun's healthy. Boom, that hits. Maybe Drake May starts. Boom, that hits. Like, there's a lot of options. If you're not getting one of the elite ones, I feel very comfortable waiting.
Yep. I mean, we still have Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, even like Kirk Cousins on a passing volume, or Matt Stafford. That defense, say what you will about the Rams organization, there's no way they're going to replace Aaron Donald in the aggregate. So Matt Stafford's going to throw probably, let me check my projections, 1 million times this year. Evan, what you thinking here?
I was going to go
I love that pick.
I was going to go Ezekiel Elliott, but we're going to pivot to Ty Chandler, mainly because I think Aaron Jones never plays a full season. So Ty Chandler will have a couple weeks that he should be the clear starter. I think it's going to be really interesting. I have a theory that they're going to use him on kick returns as the lead kick returner. for that team with Kine and Guangu. Yes, I probably just butchered that last name.
Cut. Yep.
Yeah, it just got exactly. He got cut. So if Ty Chandler is going to be seeing the field, he's going to be on that team. He's going to be getting carries. He's going to be involved in the offense. I just really appreciate a guy that can play special teams, be able to stay on the field, be active, see him in games. So yeah, I went with Ty Chandler there.
Evan, I have something gross to propose to you. I'm going to take Jalen Polk. Listen, you know my theory, and I did the math on rookie quarterbacks and their wide receivers, but this late, might as well take a shot. It's going to be very clearly early whether he's the running back one or whether he's just a guy. And I hate to say this, I'm not trying to jinx anything. If Breece Hall goes down, is there a more clear RB1 option than Braylon Allen?
Yeah, that's your guy.
He's the clear backup on a good offense, and he's going to get a metric boatload of touches.
Look, I remember touting him as a 17-year-old, and then I remember slowly going downhill the rest of his college career for me.
Fair.
Is he actually the number 2? Because we saw in the preseason game, like Izzy started taking a little of it as well. So I still think like Braylon Allen's a solid pick and most likely would end up being the number 2. But I don't think it's as clear cut as it was after that first preseason game. And that gives me a little concern if I'm comparing him to guys like Jordan Mason, Rashad White. There's a Ray Davis, maybe. There's a few others that I think also have some really strong upside.
Yep. You mean Bucky Irving for the
Rashad,
right?
Sorry, I meant Bucky Irving for Rashad White.
Yeah, I got you.
So I'm going to assume, much like most leagues, that there will be an IR slot. So I'll be able to slot Nick Chubb right after the draft in that IR slot.
Picking Allen over Chubb.
Right. So, I mean, we're looking at it. We're saying Nick Chubb is going to be that guy that if I make playoffs, he's going to be that running back that you can count on. We know Cleveland absolutely loves him. He's basically Cleveland royalty. When he comes back on the field, Jerome Ford's going to go to the side, probably play the 1B because they're not going to want to load Chubb up right away. But Chubb is going to be the guy. He's always been the guy in Cleveland. And if I have an IR slot, why not utilize it with a player that has huge upside?
My issue, and I'm trying to pull up his season finishes. So let's say theoretically he returns completely to form. Like you have a locked and loaded Nick Chubb regular season, which is probably unlikely given the nature of his injury. You're still looking at like an RB 16 to 18 in PPR. Like he's not
5 yards a carry.
If he comes back,
I think that's the challenge with him. Is he's always been one of the most pure, best rushers in the league. He's a clear outlier. Is that going to still be the case coming off a major injury at age 29?
He turns 29 early in the season. So
yeah. So like I think that's where the concern is. And then you also look at the way this offense. So the offense, they were 5th in neutral pace last year. They were 1st in total volume. They play faster with Deshaun Watson. This team wants to play fast and upbeat, which is good, but also they're going to be a more pass heavy, and Jerome Ford, I think, fits better for what this offense is building. So that's not to say that Nick Chubb still can't have great games, but I do agree. Like, I think his upside is capped from what we've seen in the past few years.
Sure. And I guess my theory on it is we're looking at the second to last round here. I have theoretically an IR slot to be able to just sit him in. And if he comes back and he's not that guy, okay, I'll just drop him and move on for a running back that is a backup that is now coming back onto the field.
Yep.
Completely agree. I think Hawkinson as well, for the person who just grabbed Hawkinson. Like if you didn't love your first tight end, you could very easily grab a middle. Well, they grab the fourth. Okay.
If he took the first tight end, that's rough. But yeah, no, I love the idea. If you have an IR slot, like take a Hawkinson, take a Chubb, take even I'm not on the clock yet, but like a Marshawn Lloyd who could be a clear handcuff later in the year. It's a free stash for fun.
And, Mike, I'm getting a little tired right now trying to draft here. So I could really use some W. Yeah, right. It's a jitterless energy drink that keeps you going throughout the day. I was up super early this morning. We're talking like 2:30 this morning. It was rough. I've been up since. So pounding some W to be able to get through the meetings with the Titans today and come back here to join the pod and do this mock draft. And I think I need some more W to be able to absolutely destroy the Natty over here in college football and use code FFRPG at checkout.
I love that. Justin, walk me through the Mike Williams pick real quick. Just he is certified good at football and the number 2 in Aaron Rodgers' offense.
More the latter than the former. He used to be pretty decent. I think going forward, it's still a question mark, but it's very clear that there's only 2 wide receivers in that offense. Other than that, you're looking at like Alan Lazard, maybe eventually Malachi Corley, but it's pretty clear he's not ready. So when you have Garrett Wilson and then Mike Williams, yes, he's going to start off a little slow. They said they're going to start him in the Breece Hall treatment, which means he's ready to play week 1, but they're not going to give him the full workload, which is perfectly fine. We're not starting him for a little, but this is purely just hey, I've got a wide receiver that if all else goes wrong, I can plug in and he's still going to be a number 2 wide receiver in Aaron Rodgers' offense. But yeah,
those spike weeks are going to be very fun. It's just they're probably going to happen on our benches. Evan, you took Marshawn Lloyd.
I'm using all my IR slots, and I am taking 2 more running backs as soon as I can put them on the IR slots right after the draft.
Delightful. All right. And with the last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant. Listen, I'm going to pick a backup running back. And I don't like to take my own handcuffs because if that happens, I'll just send all of my fab for Trey Sermon. So instead, what I'm going to do, God, these are some gross names.
Jordan Mason. Is Jordan Mason still available?
I know. I was looking around here somewhere.
No, give me Jordan Mason. Quick. Quick. And we got there. All right. So before we go, if you've listened this far, help us out, help you out. Give us a subscribe, like, comment, whatever. We really appreciate you listening along. And also go check out some of Justin's stuff. Justin, where can they find you?
At Justin Herzig, Herzig on Twitter. And from there, you'll see just about everything I put out.
Delightful. All right, you guys want to real quick run through this? And let's say favorite pick, least favorite pick. It doesn't have to be from your team. Let's roast preferably Caleb because he sniped me a couple times. Evan, we'll start with you. Favorite pick and least favorite pick.
I think my least favorite is my Anthony Richardson pick, knowing that I could have had Kyler 2 rounds later. Yeah, that's always a tough pill to swallow. Really thought Kyler was going to go a little bit earlier because of the rushing upside, because of finally having 2 receiving weapons in that offense. Let's see, favorite pick. I really did like the Brian Robinson pick and Blake Corum. I really like the Blake Corum. That's what I'm going to go with. Final answer.
All right. Thanks for the love. I love you, Evan.
Yeah.
Justin, what was your favorite and least favorite pick?
For the draft, least favorite, not including the auto drafts, I would say it's more of a holistic, but TJ Hawkinson. If you're going to draft an elite tight end, you don't need to draft a second, especially not someone who's just going to ride your pine. Yeah. We see as well, like the Evan Ingram right there as well. You've got Kelsey. You're not going to be playing these guys in the flex. And if you are, then you're wasting the pick because if you look at the other players going around it, they're far more valuable for your flex. So count on your player. Don't play for injuries. And especially if you're going with an elite from a tight end. Favorite pick. Let's go the one that sniped right before me, round 4, Malik Neighbors. In home drafts, anyone that's doing like a redraft style, Malik Neighbors goes way too late. He is, in all best ball formats, he's pretty much becoming like a 2-3 late second turn. He is an absolute bona fide stud. Especially in PPR, he might have a 30% target share this year. And yes, it's Daniel Jones. The Giants were not excited about it, but doesn't matter. He's going to catch so many balls.
All right. And then I'm going to say my favorite pick. I was mad because Caleb took him from me, but the Nico Collins pick of the 311, we've seen it in a couple of different formats. Like Nico Collins is getting pushed up. He was already a top 15 wide receiver last year, and I think he got him fairly late considering the format here in PPR. So love the Nico Collins pick. Least favorite, I'm going to double tap the Joe Burrow and the CJ Stroud. It's more of an archetype for a 1QB league. They offer you nothing on the ground. So if you're looking for a spike week that's going to win you the week, they have to absolutely ball out through the air, especially with Kyler Murray still on the board. Like, I know I took Dak Prescott, who's almost the same thing. Jaden Daniels, like, you can wait on quarterback a little bit more and just get a better fantasy football asset. So don't love the pocket passers in this format specifically. In Superflex, go for it because they provide you a little more safety. But I think that wraps up everything we had on the agenda for the night. Justin, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you had a good time. I hope the listeners had a good time. Evan, as always, I love you.